realize I'm not using my headphones for the first time. I think it'll be fine. And we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Wotalong live show. This is going to be for Crossroads of Twilight. So we're going to be talking spoilers. If you haven't read Crossroads of Twilight, please leave. Otherwise, you're going to get spoiled for stuff. But if you have read it, welcome. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
Yep.
Do you want to start with just our overall impressions?
I guess so, yeah. So I felt like this one was back to Slogville, but not quite as much as Path of Daggers. Like there were some pretty major events that happened in this, and it was a lot more cliffhangery than any of the other books have been. Like, yeah. Really none of them have left off at cliffhangers before.
I know. This ending, I was like, wait, what? You're just going to leave us with that?
Wait, it ends there? Are you sure? There's not another couple chapters? Anything like
that? Hold on, I'm trying to pull up our chat. I don't think anyone's watching it, but I want to make sure we can see them when they are. I guess I need to do it this way. So I felt similarly. The first half, especially, I was just like, what is happening? All right, I got the chat up. I was so bored during the first half of it, and then things started picking up in the second half. There still wasn't like a really big build up to the big event at the end. Like there wasn't like a really big event at the end, I feel like, except for like the epilogue that was just cliffhangery and wasn't really a big event. So I did miss a little bit of like the tension that I usually have going towards the end of the book, waiting for some really big thing to happen. So that was missing, but still at the same time, the second half was way more interesting than the first half.
Definitely.
There were a lot of things that I was like excited to see. So it's like really weird. I have mixed feelings about it. The first half, I was like bored to tears. I was like, what is going on? Is this going to be another book 7? I think that was book 7. That was like that, or maybe it was 8. At this point, like I'm starting to get the events in each book confused. Like I don't remember exactly what happened in what book at this point. So anyways, I definitely had some mixed feelings, but in the end, I still think the slog was worth it. The second half was a lot better than the first half, and even though there wasn't a big epic event that happened, it was still a good ending.
Yeah, definitely. Because I wasn't really expecting a big event because some of the later books haven't had necessarily a big event, but I still, like, there really has not been a cliffhanger. Like,
no, usually things kind of like wrap up pretty well, but yeah.
And then isn't this one the last one that Robert Jordan wrote by himself as well?
No, the next one is.
Wait, The Knife of Dreams?
Yeah, A Knife of Dreams. So Sanderson wrote 12, 13, and 14.
Oh, I thought you wrote the last
supposed to be 12. Like 12 was supposed to be the last one, but Robert Jordan just had so much he needed to wrap up that Sanderson broke it out into 3 books.
Oh, crazy. Oh, weird. Yeah, because I was totally thinking that it was the last 4. So I was thinking like, wait, so Robert Jordan wrote a cliffhanger and then that's when he died? Like that's terrible.
Also, the novella was published after this one. So we're reading in publication order. So he did write the novella and 11 and then he died.
Yeah, I mean, still pretty sad to die before your books are finished anyway. But yeah, at least the cliffhangery one.
I cried when I found out that I had never really. I guess I don't think I really knew of any author deaths before that. But like I really hadn't followed any authors as closely as I followed Robert Jordan. And when he died, like I knew he was dying, but when he died, I cried. It's the first time I'd ever cried over like an author death.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we have some people in the chat. Someone whose name is Nay Bliss, which is so funny, said, I've always felt like it was necessary. It felt like it was a necessary book to show us info we didn't need, but it just wasn't super entertaining. And I agree. It
pretty much
wasn't. The second half was better, like I said, but it wasn't that entertaining. I think so. It's really funny in I don't even know if I've posted this review yet because I'm kind of behind on posting my like reviews of these books. But in one of my reviews, I said something about like I really appreciated that Robert Jordan didn't do like a weird timeline thing like George R. R. Martin did. And then I was proven wrong because that's basically what this book was. So I spoke too soon on that. He did do a split timeline thing, but it was good to know what was going on. But I thought one thing that he did do better than George R. R. Martin is that when he was doing the split timelines, he did it in a way that we knew sort of like how they related, because there was the big event of cleansing of Sidene that everyone around the world could feel. So we had that to kind of anchor us in the timeline. And then another thing that I noticed is at the end of the book, there are multiple scenes from different point of views where they all mention like a really big storm with like lightning and stuff. So I think maybe all of those events were happening at the same time too. So I appreciated that there were some like markers like that to help us know what time things were happening.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't even thought of that, but that's true.
Yeah. I just remember when I read the George R. R. Martin books, I got really confused during the timeline in those two books where he like split the characters up.
Yeah, and I thought that, yeah, because also at the end of those, it was like once the timeline comes back together at the very end of the second book in which that was a thing, we suddenly get some of the characters back in this weird, like...
Yeah, I just remember it being really weird and awkward to read, and I feel like Robert Jordan did it a little bit better, but I'm probably biased.
Well, the way Robert Jordan did it, it's almost hard to even realize that that's what's going on, because we already do follow so many characters that that not seeing one for like an entire book isn't all that strange.
Yeah.
Whereas
he'd already kind of done that before where he left characters out, but he never necessarily went back and like said like this is what they were doing during the time that they were missing. This is like the first time that I feel like he's done that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking of characters, I am getting like character overload with all the like political stuff that's going on in Camelin, trying to keep up with all the different houses and nobles in the different houses. Like that was getting confusing. All of the Aes Sedai, both in like the rebel camp and in the tower, like we're just getting so many more name drops and like just so many more people. And even as a rereader, like at this point, I don't even really, even though I have read, I think I've read up to 12 because I know I've read at least one that Sanderson wrote. So, but I don't even really consider it. I mean, it is rereading, but like I don't remember any of the stuff. I have like 2 plot points that I remember that haven't been revealed yet. And I think one of them is about to happen because of the way the book ended. So I basically don't even feel like I'm rereading anymore, but I don't remember all of these characters. There's just so many of them and it's really hard to keep track.
There are a lot of them. I completely agree. And some people even have really similar names too, where you're kind of like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then I've been listening to the audiobook and some of the names might be spelled differently, but they sound similar. And so that's been confusing.
Yeah, I mean, there's like another, there's like, I mean, we obviously have Megden, but then there's also like Maglet, something else. And I was like, what the heck?
I think it's Megan. It's kind of like Megan's, but so I think it's Megan, and then we have Megden. So yeah, they're confusing.
Yeah, there are a lot. Yeah, it's kind of insane.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to keep track.
Yeah, and I noticed that, how in the audiobook they started pronouncing Mogideon's name as that instead of Mogadine.
They keep switching.
Yeah,
so I had to like look it up at some point. I was like, what is the right way to say it? And I think it is Mogideon. I think that's the right way to say it, but people in multiple places were like, even the audiobooks can't keep it straight. One book it's Mogadine, one book it's Mogideon, and then they switch back.
Yeah, and I've noticed that with some of the other names as well. So instead of Sorelia, they're now saying Sorelia when they were saying Sorelia before.
How do I say it? I think I say Sorelia.
Yeah, it's really weird. So there are like a few where they've changed the pronunciation on them, and I'm like, wait a second, what?
Yeah, no, that does not help with there being a million characters to remember.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah. Someone in the chat, Alexis, said Comparison between last books of George R.R. Martin is judicious. Did all fantasy authors in an advanced stage of their story multiply characters and plots until making a complicated timeline? I haven't read enough of like big fantasy series to say yes or no to that, but I mean, once you have that many plot lines going, I can imagine it's hard to give everyone good screen time or page time and still like have a plot, like a plot arc through that one book, you know? Like I just, as much as I struggled with these books that have not really had great like plot arcs, I understand why it's hard. Like I don't think I could do it better.
Yeah, and I mean, thinking of all the other like long series that I've actually read that far into and everything like that, like these are really the only two that I've seen do like a split timeline thing over like a couple of the books or anything like that.
Have you read other series that have as many characters as these two?
Sort of. I mean, not quite, I guess. I mean, what comes to mind immediately is the Noble Dead saga by Barb and J.C. Hendy. That's a really good series. It's like 14 books, I think. I don't remember, but I read all but the last one because my friends told me, don't just stop at the previous one. It's fine. You're good. You finished the series. Hooray. So I just got to read the last one. So I took their word for it because it's all like, it's a bunch of my friends' favorite series. And if they didn't like the last one, then I probably wouldn't.
Man, but how disappointing is that to like put that much time into a series and not like the finale?
Seriously. But yeah, so like while there are certain, plot arcs that kind of, especially at the beginning, is where more they like split the plot into certain books a lot more, but they never ended up doing a split timeline type of thing. I mean, they kind of, in a way, they kind of did because they did split off and have because the characters split up. They were no longer like a traveling party. And so the 3 books in the middle followed one of them only, and then they all got back together after that.
Yeah, but they didn't do like a weird like catch up. This is what people were doing when they were.
No, not really at all, which was kind of weird, but I don't know.
Yeah. So Nablus said, I just feel like the main criticisms of COT is due to Crossroads of Twilight is due to lack of any feeling of the story moving forward. I think it could have been improved with some type of resolution of any different plot line. So yeah, there wasn't like a resolution to any of the plot lines, which is disappointing, but there was still interesting stuff that happened. But yeah, that's probably why it feels like such a letdown, because there wasn't like a big thing.
Yeah.
And Alexis said, I agree, it's not bad, but just meh for me, nothing very spectacular. Fortunately, the next one was much better, so we've got that to look forward to. Robert Kramer and Kate Redding both pronounce things differently. Yes, they do.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother-in-law actually pointed out that they both say Aes Sedai differently.
Do they?
Yeah, he was like, I like how the woman says Aes Sedai better than how the man says Aes Sedai. And I'm like, I haven't even like thought that hard about it.
Yeah. I'm not good at comparing the two. I don't know, it's weird. I listen to them all, but it's like the pronunciations don't stick with me. Like when they say the words, I typically know what they're talking about, but I don't always remember how they say it. And it's not until later when I'm like filming a video and I'm like, how do I say this name again? And then after that, if I go back and listen, I'll pay attention to how they say it and then I'll remember. But a lot of times I don't really notice. You'd think that they would try to get on the same page about something like that. But I mean, they're making these audiobooks like a year or 2 apart. I can get that it's hard, but it'd be nice if
definitely. Like I'm doing an audiobook for my book right now. And just yesterday I had to tell my friend who's narrating it about all these pronunciation questions that she had that I had totally not thought of at all. That because to me, like I wrote the book, like I kind of
know in your head what it's
like. There's so many things that it's like, wait, I do. Yeah, those would be weird to know because you have to know. Otherwise, you end up saying it. Yeah. So with two audiobook narrators, it would be like really weird, and it would be really hard to get on the same page.
Yeah.
narrating an audiobook is like hard work anyway, basically.
Yeah. I've thought about it, especially when it comes to accents, because I feel like those are definitely harder than just pronouncing like one word. So I think they slightly do the Shan-Chan accent differently, but I can imagine that's really hard to get the same like accent going. And I mean, there's so many different accents in the book too, so it's hard.
That's also true.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna start going through my notes about like what happened.
Well, I was pretty shocked at Tylin.
Oh, at her death? I know. I didn't remember that that was going to happen, and I was so sad. And poor Matt, like he just, I mean, he feels like it's his fault. I mean, it kind of is his fault because the golem was looking for him, and he had tied her up. But even if he hadn't tied her up, like she wouldn't have escaped the golem. So like, he shouldn't worry about that, even though he is. But yeah, poor Tylin. I really liked her.
That really surprised me a lot. I was like, what the heck is going on here?
I know.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I wonder where the golem is now.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, we haven't seen him in a while. So all of Matt's interactions with Tuan, I love. I love Tuan. She's such a cool character. I can't wait to, I can't wait to see what happens. I think I know something about their timeline, but I'm not sure. Like, I can't decide if it's just like a hunch I have or if it's like a hunch I have because I read it before, but I just don't really remember. So I'm excited to see their timeline keep going so I can see what happens and if my hunch / vague memory is right. What else happened? So we start the book in Matt's point of view. None of that was interesting except for finding out that Tylin was killed by the golem. Oh, and then we switch to Perrin's storyline, and he's looking for Fail. The Darkhound stuff was kind of interesting. I mean, not that I would have expected, but I was surprised that there's Darkhounds after them. Well, I guess not really after them, but like, what were the Darkhounds doing there? I don't know.
Good question.
And I'm really interested in who was that Aes Sedai. Okay, it doesn't say in this little summary that I have, but one of the Aes Sedai that's with Perrin says that she's had experience with Darkhounds and that she's run into 7 packs before. I like want a novella about that. Like, why is she studying Darkhounds? How did she run into them? What happened? Did she kill them? Like, what was that? I want to know more.
Yeah, I don't remember who that was either, but I remember what you're talking about. That was kind of odd.
Yeah, it actually made me a little bit suspicious because she knows so much about Darkhounds. Like, maybe she's Black Aja, but I don't know.
Or maybe she like escaped from the Black Aja.
Mm-hmm. There's got to be more to the story. And then we get a couple readers in Fail's point of view, which the only thing interesting about stuff that happened to Fail was that Shido Reagan, I think is his name, the one that saved her. So that was kind of intense when she got like picked up by this guy and it seemed like she was about to get raped. Like that was, I don't know, that was like the most tense I had felt about any sort of like sexual, like there really hasn't been any sort of like attempted sexual assault or anything like that in these books so far. And I like thought that it might happen there and I got really nervous and I thought it was kind of intense. And I was glad that she was saved by that other Aiel, but I wonder what his motivations are because it seems like he might have like a crush on her, but he said that he knows she has a husband and he hasn't tried anything. And so like, I don't really know what his intentions are, but I'm glad that he's there to look out for her.
Yeah, really.
In the chat, Nay Bliss said, I think it's interesting that Matt feels as he does for Tylin as she essentially raped him. I think that's almost like Stockholm Syndrome. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Nay Bliss, about raping him. But
he was basically just really pushy and just like really like wouldn't take no for
stuff. So I was thinking we were talking about Tuan, not Tylin. Yes. Yes. Okay. Now I'm on the same page. Yeah, I thought that was weird too, that he was like so into Thailand considering how pushy she was. But I think that he liked the attention, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't know, but that definitely, we've talked about that in another live show. Like, it was kind of awkward how pushy she was with him. Sorry, I was totally confused, Nameless. I was thinking Tuan, which didn't make sense. I was like, Tuan raped him? When did that happen? Yes, Thailand. She was definitely really pushy. A little bit of Stockholm syndrome. I can see that.
Pretty much. I mean, she basically even tried to like starve him into,
Yeah.
going
To come to see her.
I don't even know.
All right, so after we're with Perrin, and Fail, then we are with Elaine, and she has all this like political stuff going on, trying to secure her throne. It was a little okay. So something that was interesting is the whole sea folk thing. So the sea folk like barge in on her and say that the mistress of their ships has died and that a new one needs to be picked. So a bunch of them need to leave. And I was trying to remember, I don't know, maybe you remember, did we know that the mistress of ships died? Like, did we see that happen?
I
How did she die?
think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
I kind of don't think so either, but I feel like maybe I missed it. I don't know. Anyways, so she died and they need to pick a new mistress of ships. But and so Elaine has to work out like an agreement about who can leave and who can stay because she needs some of the Windfinders to help, supply Andor and stuff. But the part that was interesting was that Marilel and one of the not assistants, the people in training for the Windfinders, they run away before like the Windfinders can leave. And I don't know why they ran away. Like, what are they doing? Yeah. So, I mean, that hasn't been resolved. We'll see what happens there. Oh, Nablus said, I disagree on the sexual assault. I think what Tylan did to Matt was sexual assault. It just doesn't feel that way because Matt has been the most sexual character in the series. I can definitely see where you're coming from, Nablus, because those scenes did make me uncomfortable. And it wasn't until later when Matt kind of was like talking about it in his head that I started to feel better about it. But the first time, like, yeah.
Yeah, that's the same thing that I thought too.
Yeah.
And I think that also when he's kind of rationalizing it in his head and everything, you kind of think about how back in his village, like that probably never happened. So he doesn't have any any sort of negative experience to relate to that with or anything like that.
To tie it to.
Yeah, so he's probably just like, why? So because he seemed like just as upset that a woman gave him presents instead of the other way around as he was with like this lady just not taking no for an answer just overall.
Yeah. Yeah. So something that is kind of interesting is I feel like, Robert Jordan is sort of known for these gender stereotypes and sort of challenging them sometimes, but not challenging them sometimes. Like, he plays with gender stuff. And thinking about this whole Matt and Tylan thing, I don't want to talk about it too much more because that was more like last book than this book. But I just want to say that if we think about if this had happened, if Matt was a woman and this has happened to Matt, if this had happened to a woman and afterwards she like rationalized it, we'd be like up in arms, like, what? Why would they write that in a book? Like, that's terrible representation, blah, blah, blah. But because it's a boy, like, we're not as upset about it. Maybe, I don't know. Definitely something to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on from that. Okay. Yeah, just a bunch of Elaine stuff with her trying to secure her throne. Dylan brought some heads of houses to her that were like all 16, and Elaine wasn't too happy with that.
And at this point, everyone kind of knows that Elaine is pregnant too, but they don't know whose kid it is.
Yeah, they don't know that she's having twins. Only a few people do, which I think is really cool. I'm glad that she's having twins. That's going to be fun. I thought it was funny that, so, I mean, obviously she doesn't want people to know who the dad is because that could cause all kinds of dangers and stuff. But she's letting people think that it's the captain of her guard or whatever, who we know is actually like a dark friend and probably wants to kill her. But she's just like letting people think that that's the father of her child. I think that's really funny.
Yeah, I kind of wondered why, I kind of thought it was weird that that's who so many people were suspecting too. But I don't know. Maybe it's just there just aren't that many men there. So
around, yeah, that's true. What?
Yeah, I guess if people did know that they were Rand's children, it would be kind of messy because they'd be like, oh no, what if they can channel? What if
they might try to kill her just because of that?
Yeah.
Like, because the children could be a danger, and because by killing her, they could hurt Rand. So yeah, it's definitely good that she's keeping that a secret.
Yeah, definitely.
So we also got a chapter from Elenia, who is one of the people who is like supporting Aramilla for the throne. And I thought this chapter was completely unnecessary. Like, it was all about like some of this political stuff around the throne for Camelin and why people are supporting other people and things like that. But I was just like, I don't care about this at all when I was reading that. So that was annoying.
I think we just get so little time in Camelin compared to just everywhere overall in the books that we're not really given much of a reason to care about just some political intrigue that's only in Camelin kind of thing. So I think, I agree with you. I don't think we necessarily needed that chapter, but
yeah. Well, and then after that is when we have some sections from Egwene, which I was excited. Like, this is where things start to get a little more exciting for me personally. So we see Egwene, and they have a meeting with the sitters, and one of the Aes Sedai, Baonin, wants to start negotiations with the tower, and we see how the tower's kind of split on that, which was interesting. And I'm glad that Elaine is, or I always say, like, I often say Elaine when I mean Egwene for some reason. So if I mess that up, I'm sorry. But I feel like Egwene is trying really hard to reunite the tower, and I think that's a good thing. What else happened? Oh, so Egwene figured out how to make Quendalar, which is super cool, and her like idea of making it into sort of like a business thing so that other people, so that they can sell it and make money, I thought was super smart.
Yeah, I agree. That is pretty smart for sure.
There was also some talk again between Egwene and Swan about the sitters in both of the halls, like the sitters in the Rebel Hall and in the Tower Hall, and about how they all seem to be really young for sitters. And like, this has been brought up multiple times, and I just want to know why is this a thing? I mean, I have a few different ideas. It could be either that all of these really young sitters are all Black Aja, or the Black Aja had a hand in putting these sitters on. Or the other thing I was thinking is that maybe it's just that like the people who could be sitters that were of the right age, like older and potentially wiser, decided they didn't want to sit on a hall when the tower is in turmoil, because once the tower is reunited, either side, like one of the sides is going to lose and those sitters are going to be punished, and they just didn't want to be punished. But I feel like that's like way too easy of an answer. There's got to be more to it.
That is a good point. That's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know where that's going to go. Oh, and then so someone comes back, like a group of Aes Sedai comes back to meet with the hall to tell them about Shadar Logoth. Like, they had gone to Shadar Logoth to see what happened there. And it actually wasn't until I got to that chapter that I even remembered that Rand and Nynaeve cleansing Sidene, like that they had gone to Shatter Logoth to do it. So at first I was like, what happened to Shatter Logoth? Was that like when, because Rand a few books ago went to Shatter Logoth to kill Samael, one of the Forsaken. So I was like, is that what they're talking about? And then I had to go back and look a little bit. I was like, oh yeah. So they went to Shatter Logoth to cleanse Sidene, and when they were done, there's just like a big hole in the ground where they were. So that's what they were talking about. And they, and I said, I think that the Forsaken have some like awesome, or I mean, not awesome, but some powerful weapon, and that's like not what it is at all. So funny. And then even after that, Egwene goes to Teleron Riyadh and meets with Avienda, and she's telling Avienda about this like weapon and how she doesn't like know if what the power was being used for was like a good thing or a bad thing. Excuse me. And Avienda knows, or at least she knows that it wasn't a bad thing, and she knows that Rand is still alive. So she knows more than what she can tell Egwene. And it was a little bit frustrating because Avienda and Egwene were such good friends. And it's funny that now Elaine and Avienda are closer friends than Egwene and her, but it's hard to see like people who are friends not being able to be open with each other. I know I've talked about this before. Like, I hate that everyone's keeping so many secrets. At the same time, they all have reasons for those secrets. And it's so awkward to see Avienda and Egwene talk about this, and like we as readers know both sides of the story. And like, I was just like Avienda, just tell her, but she can't. Nablus said, I think political intrigue can be interesting, like in A Song of Ice and Fire, but I think the execution here was fairly boring. Very true. And there's just so many people involved, it's really hard to keep track. Like, we keep hearing about it, like so spread apart that it's like hard to keep track of who's on what team and what's going on. We were never invested in those opposing Elaine, and it's never really a question that she won't get there to the throne. So it feels anticlimactic and boring. I agree. I mean, maybe that's why Robert Jordan put in that chapter from the other point of view, to like try and get us invested in what's going on the other side of the houses, but it didn't work.
Maybe it's just information that we need later or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's very possible, because there are definitely things in a couple books ago that I thought was really boring, and it ended up sort of not being important, but it helped tie things together in the next book and things like that. So that's very possible for sure. Okay, and then so after the Hall finds out about Shatter Logoth, then someone proposes that they make a deal with the Ashaman and include them in their circles. So that was pretty interesting. Sherian like had a panic attack like in the meeting. I was like, no, this can't be happening. She like couldn't breathe. It was, I mean, it's not funny, but it was funny to see her react that way. What do you think about that? Including Ashaman in their circles?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
so they were saying that like obviously we can't let the Ashaman control the circles, and like they would have to let us control it. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, good luck. Good luck convincing them that they're going to control it and just like let you use them. Graf Fuller just checked in and said, just checking in on the conversation. Thanks for doing this. We'll be back when I'm actually reading that book in my reread, because he's on book 5 right now. Yeah, Graf, come back later. Go away.
Yeah, over the next couple of months, people can catch up if they want.
I've had a few people say like, oh, I'm so glad that you guys pushed the schedule a little bit because it'll give me time to catch up. So hopefully people take the opportunity to catch up. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I think it was kind of needed.
Yeah. So something that's funny, talking about including the Ashaman in the circles, the Rebel Aes Sedai come to the conclusion of including them in their circles, and the Aes Sedai that are in the tower come to a slightly different conclusion that they need to bond Ashaman as warders, which I thought was really funny. Like, they're obviously like trying to tackle the same problem, but they came to different solutions. One was just to like make a deal with them and include them in their like circle so they can have more than 13 people in a circle, and the other one was to bond them as warders. And the women in the White Tower, they don't know, well, the Rebel Aes Sedai don't know either, that the Ashaman have already been bonding Aes Sedai. I can't wait for them to find that out, because that's going to be interesting. They're going to have issues with that for sure.
And then who was it that they were trying to get, what's her name, who bonded Lan as a warder, and is like planning to pass the bond to Nynaeve, which hasn't actually happened, even though everyone kind of feels like it has.
Marilla, I think is
Marilla, whatever her name is. They were trying to get her to bond somebody as a warder in this book, and she's like, "Oh, well, I already have 3," when actually she has 4, and she's just not saying.
It was because someone's like an Aes Sedai died, and it was her warder, and so they were like, "Oh, do you want to like take on this guy because you're really good at keeping them alive?" And she had to be, I wonder what exactly she said. I wasn't paying super close attention, because she can't have said that like I only have 3, because that's a lie, and she can't lie because she's sworn on the oath rod. So I wonder what she said to like get around that.
Something about like, it was something relating to how she marries all of her warders and she wouldn't marry this guy.
He was like fat or something.
It was something weird. I don't remember what it was.
No, I remember I laughed at
but
that.
It was like a very obvious, like, she's just trying to get out of it thing.
I think she said something like, "Oh, 3 is a handful," or something like that. And then after she left, the other women were like, maybe it's because she's not attracted to him, because the rumor is that she marries them all. Which is funny, because she didn't marry Lan, but she did sleep with him, so.
It's kind of weird. Yeah, I mean, at this point, why don't Nynaeve and Lan just like, why doesn't Nynaeve just bond Lan now that we know that a warder can have multiple?
Well, I don't think she knows that a warder.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like I don't think she knows that, and I doubt that Myrell or Murrell. There's multiple names that sound like that, and so sometimes I get
totally are.
But I don't think they know that a warder can have more than one Aes Sedai. So they're probably waiting till they get in the same place so that she can move the bond or something, but I don't know. We actually didn't see from Nynaeve or Lan like the whole book. I want to know what's going on with them. Like, we didn't see from Rand hardly at all. We got one, I feel like one chapter included Rand, and that was from Kat Swain's point of view. And then the epilogue.
Yeah, and then also the no, there was one other chapter kind of towards the end that had Rand's point of view, because I literally updated my Goodreads thing to say where I was, and I wrote on there, you know what what we haven't seen in a while, the main character. And then the very next chapter was from Rand's point of view.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't remember which one, and we did get one chapter that included Nynaeve and Lan, but it was like super brief.
Oh, so someone, I can't say this name, but she said Myrell is the one who has Lan's bond, and Marillel, I don't know if there's an extra, like it ends in an E, so I don't know if it's Marillella or just Marillel. Anyways, Marillel is the Kyrian Aes Sedai who is a lot like Moraine. Thank you for clearing that up, because I get them confused.
Yeah, I was calling Marilla or something for like a while there.
I mean, they're spelled very differently, but they could be said the same way. So it makes me wonder how they're saying it in the audiobook, and if I've like got them confused. Myrell and Marillel. Okay, and Marillel, I think, is also, or not I think, I'm pretty sure, is the one who is in Camelin and then has been teaching the Windfinders and then ran away with the person in training. And then Myrell has been with the Rebel Aes Sedai like pretty much the whole time. and she has sworn fealty to Egwene because Egwene found out about Lan's bond. And she kind of blackmailed her. Okay. So another thing that happens here is that Anaya dies. They were killed with Sidene. And then Egwene has Nassau trying to figure out why. And I mean, it's not stated, but I think it's pretty clear that it's Halima / this male Forsaken who's been reborn into a woman. I don't think I am entirely sure who exactly Halima is supposed to be, but I feel like in the last book, it was pretty clear that she was a Forsaken that was reborn. So I'm pretty sure that's who killed the Aes Sedai. And then later in the book, another Aes Sedai is also killed. Or maybe she wasn't an Aes Sedai. Maybe she was someone who was still accepted. Either way. So at least 2 Aes Sedai have died because of Sidene, which I think is really interesting. Okay, someone, I'm going to try to say your name, Cian Sonia, said Halima is supposed to be the reincarnation of Bathamel. So that's one of the Forsaken. I think that's the Forsaken that died like in the first book. So I didn't know very much about that Forsaken. But yes, so we have confirmation. Halima is definitely a male Forsaken reborn. But yeah, I think Halima is the one that's killing these Aes Sedai with Sidene. And the other thing is that both of the Aes Sedai that died are Aes Sedai that are involved in making the Quendalar. So I don't know why the Forsaken have such a problem with Egwene making Quendalar. Like, why is that a problem? Maybe, oh, I just had an idea. Maybe they have a problem, like the Forsaken don't want Aes Sedai to know how to make Quendalar because that's what the seals on the Dark One's prison are made of. So if they can figure out how to make Quendalar, they can make more seals.
Or they can figure out how to unmake them thing. Yeah, that'd be kind of weird.
Yeah, maybe that's why it's an issue. Interesting. Yeah, they said Bathamel is one of the 2 Forsaken who dies in the Eye of the World. The other one is Agenor, who is reborn as Osengar. Well, I think that's helpful, but I'm not sure if those have been like completely revealed. Maybe they don't get any more further revealed in the rest of the series, but try to keep knowledge to what we know in this book, which is hard when you've read the whole series to know what's revealed in each book. But thank you for the clarification. Okay, and then we have a chapter from Alviarin's point of view, which had me like laughing because she comes back and like things in the White Tower are weird. People are looking at her weird and said something like, "This is a sad time, especially for you." And she in her head's like, "What the fuck? Like, why is this a sad time?" And then she goes to see Elida, and Elida like treats her like crap, and she's just like, "What is happening?" That whole chapter, I was laughing so hard because obviously, like, I hate her, and she deserves being treated this way. And then at the end of that chapter, she calls Masana because she thinks that Elida knows that she's Black Aja, and she's like, "I'm in trouble." And she tries to get Masana to help her, and Masana kind of poo-poos her and is like, "Oh, you're fine, it's not a big deal." But then Shaidar Haran shows up, that Murdrel, and basically saves Alviarin, marks her as his, and says that Masana can't hurt her unless he tells her. And Alviarin leaves that meeting thinking that she has just been marked by the Dark One. Like, she doesn't realize who he is. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that Shaidar Haran is not actually the Dark One in the flesh. He's just Niblis. And I think he's one of the Forsaken Reborn again, but I don't know. And if you do know, don't reveal it quite yet, because I don't think we're supposed to know yet. But yeah, all of that was so funny to see Alviarin go through that and just be so confused, like come into the White Tower thinking like she's the boss, and then like she's not the boss anymore. That was funny.
My phone is letting me know that someone is driving past my house.
I was like, that's a pretty sound.
That's all that was. It wasn't someone ringing the doorbell or anything weird.
Yeah. Do you have like a ring doorbell thing or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's already 12:45. Well, we're almost done. We're almost at the end. But this last part is where all the exciting stuff happens. So we already talked about how the people in the White Tower want to bond Ashaman as warders. Oh, I guess I didn't remember this part. When they were talking about it, this Aes Sedai was actually specifically suggesting that Red Sisters be the ones to bond Ashaman as warders, which is really funny because they hate men. So good luck with that.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. There's a meeting with Kat Swain and Rand. I remember this chapter being from Kat Swain's point of view. There wasn't too much interesting stuff there. And then the warders and some Ashaman, including Logain and Aes Sedai, show up, and Bashir and Loyal all show up to meet with Rand, which was cool. I was really glad to see Loyal again. I actually, for a second, couldn't remember what he's been doing, but I think what he did was he went to talk to the different steadings and asked them to close the Waygates forever because the Shadow had been using the Waygates to travel. So he's back from doing that, and I love him. He's such a, I don't know, like a cuddly bear, basically. So I was glad to see him back. Oh, so there was this whole section about, before that, sorry, I'm reading. We had a little point of view from an Aes Sedai named Elza, and we learned that she's Black Aja, and that was the first time we've seen this Aes Sedai, so I definitely need to like remember that name so the next time I see her, like I know that she's evil. Yeah. And then we switch to Perrin's storyline, and he goes to that city, So Harbor, to buy provisions. And this whole part of the storyline confused me because I didn't understand the point. So he goes to the city, and they buy grain, but the grain is all like messed up. They had to like sift through it to get rid of the weevils and all of that stuff. They end up still buying it. But the city is like all weird because people are scared and they have been seeing dead people walking, and then like they buy the grain and they leave. And I was like, what was all that about? Like, why are they seeing dead people? Are we not going to do anything about this? Like, what does that have to do with anything? It was so weird.
That is really weird.
Yeah. Oh, Sion Sonia, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name, said that Elza Penfell, that Black Aja Aes Sedai I was saying just saw, was at the cleansing of Sidene. So I did not know that. I want to go back and reread some of that. The cleansing of Sidene chapter had a lot of POVs and a lot of jumping around, and I don't think I like internalized a lot of what was said there. Like I think it was made pretty clear that Halima is Bathamel in that chapter, but I just wasn't sure. Like I couldn't tell for sure. So I want to go back and reread that chapter because I feel like we got a lot of information that was hard to really like put together. Oh, she told me how to pronounce her name. Sean Sini. Oh, that's way easier. Sean Sini. Thank you for letting me know how to pronounce that. Okay, so I want to go back and look and see what Elza Penfell was doing at the cleansing of Sidene. Let's see. Okay, so we have that whole section with Perrin, and they buy that stuff, and then they leave. And as they're leaving, he runs into Talonvor, or somebody finds Talonvor, because Talonvor ran away when Morghese and Fayo were first captured because he wanted to try and free them. And it turns out, like, he comes back saying that he found a bunch of Shan-Chan and wants to, like, make an alliance with them to defeat the Shido. So that was kind of a surprise. I didn't see that coming.
No, me neither.
Yeah. And at first I was like, what? That's crazy. But then So I think Robert Jordan did this on purpose. Like, I think he gave us red herring. So we have that suggestion that they're going to work together. We've also have heard that the Shan-Chan have some sort of alliance with Masema. And then later, when we get to Matt's chapters, he's been hearing rumors that the Shan-Chan have made an alliance with someone powerful. And I thought that in those chapters, they were talking about the alliance with Masema. But it sounds like because of the epilogue that what we were hearing about was Rand's alliance with the Shan-Chan. So I think that he like put in these little red herrings of other people having alliances with the Shan-Chan, so we would always think that it was somebody else being talked about, and then surprise, it's Rand. Okay, let's see. So after that, we are in Matt's point of view and Tuon. All the scenes where he was like courting Tuon by bringing her things, and like that was all so funny. And I love Matt. He's freaking adorable. And I love that he isn't trying to fight his like fate. He knows that he's supposed to marry her, and he's just like, well, I'm just gonna marry her, so I might as well like just go along with it. And he starts doing that stuff. And then when we found out like the way Shan-Chan get married, where they just have to say like refer to the other person as their wife or husband 3 times, and then it's like done. That was so funny because Matt already said it 3 times without even knowing that was what was like that's how Shan-Chan get married. So Tuon has known this the whole time and has just been like watching what he does, knowing the power is like basically all in her court to decide if they're going to get married or not, because all she has to do is say it. All of that was so funny to watch. I think the Shan-Chan are so cool. I think they have really cool customs, and I mean, they're sort of evil. I can see that too. I mean, they're not really evil, but you know, they're conquering people. Like, they're not totally good, but they're kind of good. And their culture is just so interesting. It's so different. And a lot of their culture, it seems like Robert Jordan, like got inspiration from East Asian cultures, but then they're also described as being like basically like black, like really dark skinned. So in my head, trying to like imagine Asian like clothing and culture on like black people, like I just think that's so cool and so unique.
Yeah.
So while Matt is like trying to court Tuon, there's some weird stuff going on between like Tuon and Ygyanin, and basically she names Ygyanin as being shipless and says that basically strips her of her nobility or whatever. And then like later when Matt and Tuon come back from dress shopping and like they say Ygyanin's been hurt, my first like inclination was that Ygyanin had tried to kill herself or something. And I was like, what happened? I thought that she was like so upset about losing her like place in life or whatever that she like decided to kill herself. And then we find out that Rhenna stabbed her and then ran away. And I was like, oh, that makes more sense. And then Matt like following Rhenna, and they get so close to catching her, but they know that they're not going to be able to catch her before she reaches the city. And he like doesn't want to kill her, but doesn't have a choice, and like orders Vannon to shoot the arrow. That scene was heartbreaking. Like I felt really bad for Matt because he didn't want to kill her, but she shouldn't have stabbed Ygyanin and ran away. Like he could have put him between a rock and a hard place, you know?
Yeah, pretty much.
Poor Matt having to kill women and he hates it. And then Matt, like before he goes to hunt down Rhenna, he tells the traveling circus group and his group, like, okay, you guys need to leave like right now. And then he comes back and they're all still there because Tuon was like, no, we're not going anywhere. Oh my gosh, I laughed so hard. And even before that, Matt had said, like, I don't know if I'm in charge or if Tuon's in charge. And then he comes back to that and he's like, oh, I guess Tuon's in charge. Oh, so funny. So then we have a chapter where Egwene finds out that Chiron was also killed with Sidene, and Chiron was another one of the Aes Sedai that that's really strong in Earth and could change Quendalar. So Egwene realizes that that's a connection between the two, but I guess not everybody knows about the Quendalar because she somebody asked her do you know of any connection between them, and she says no or something. So that was kind of weird. But all the Aes Sedai are freaked out because they think that there's a man in their midst that is killing these Aes Sedai, but it's Halima. I wish they could know that it was Halima. Apparently Nicola ran away, and I laughed at this because her cousins and the little families that they created covered for her because they don't like her. They didn't want her to come back, and that made me laugh really hard.
That is really weird.
Yeah. Oh, and then so this kind of this was a cliffhanger. What happens to Egwene? And I thought that something was going to happen. I thought we were going to get some sort of resolution in this timeline or this plot line, and it didn't happen. I was really disappointed. But basically, Egwene has this plan where Bodwin is going to go to the harbor and turn the chain into Quendalar, which I don't know how that's going to help anything. I guess what that would do is close off the harbor so that Tarvalon can't it would finalize the siege, basically. They won't be able to get food and stuff. I guess that's what they're trying to go after. Anyways, last minute, Egwene decides to do it instead of Bodwin because she says that she can do it better than Bodwin. But it was a trap because they were Aes Sedai from inside the tower waiting for her there, and she ends up being captured. So that is pretty scary. I don't think that's going to go well. Yeah. I am scared for Egwene. And when she left, she told Swan, don't tell anybody that I left. And it's going to take Swan a while to realize that something's wrong and, to tell people. And if she's in the tower, how are they going to get her out? I don't remember what happens.
Oh, my gosh.
Not knowing what's going to happen is stressful for me as a reader.
Oh, my gosh, no.
And then after that, we end with that crazy epilogue where it's Rand saying, or I guess it's Bashir shows up to Rand and says, okay, the Shan-Chan have agreed and they want you to meet the Daughter of the Nine Moons. And I'm pretty sure that Suroth sent that note before Tuon ran away. I'm going to say Tuon ran away because she was very compliant when Matt took her. So I don't really feel like Matt kidnapped her. I feel like Tuon agreed to run away with him.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And I think Suroth said that before she ran away. And so now Suroth is probably freaking out because she told the Dragon Reborn that he can meet Tuon, and she doesn't have Tuon. But little do either of them know that Tuon is safe in the hands of Matt. I just think the whole thing is so funny, and I can't wait for those storylines to come together. I don't know how, because right now Matt and Tuon are on their way to Lugard, which is not anywhere near, I'm pretty sure. I'm not really great with the map, but I don't think that's anywhere near Tyr. I mean, granted, Rand can travel anywhere, but I don't know how those storylines are going to come together, because right now they're going to Lugard. I don't actually know why they're going to Lugard. Out of all the places, why did they pick Lugard? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah. Shansony said, the Egwene cliffhanger is one of the best things about Crossroads of Twilight, in my opinion. And I totally agree. I just wish that it had been less cliffhangery and more of a resolution. But that, I was getting really excited seeing her lead up to that point. And then she got kidnapped, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And then it's epilogue.
At least all of the books are out and we're not having to wait for
Well, imagine if you read Crossroads of Twilight when it was released, and then you had to and then the next book that comes out isn't even Knife of Dreams, it's the novella, and you're like, no, I want to know what happens to Egwene.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's 1:00. Wow, we talked the whole time. That was awesome.
Pretty much.
Even though the first half of the book was boring, there was still a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about. So it was fun. All right. Well, thank you everyone who joined us. I actually think we had a bigger turnout than usual for like the live show. I feel like a lot of times people watch these recorded afterwards, which is totally fine. But thank you for everybody who joined us. That was so much fun. As a reminder, in November, we're going to be reading the prequel novella, New Spring, which I actually don't know if I've ever read before. I don't think I actually have, so that's going to be fun. So we're going to read that and be discussing that at the end of November. We're taking all of December off for the holidays. And then in January, we'll be picking up with Knife of Dreams and discussing it at the end of January, putting us to finish the series in April. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.